Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Caroline. If you're returning, welcome back. Today I thought I would do a little top 7 books I read last year. I know that's a weird number because it's like either like top 10 or top 5, but I feel like I had like more than 5 books that were really pioneers for last year, but less than 10. So top 7, here we come. But the top 7 books from last year are not like books that came out last year, they're just books that I read last year that I felt kind of changed my world. So we will start off with my absolute favorite author, Helena Hunting. She is just the light of my life as far as books are concerned. I don't know, I just find, for me, her writing is just so witty and funny, and her characters are so lovable, and I feel like probably since I read the Pucked series, yeah, that kind of solidified her in my world. So Meet Cute was really, it was a cute book. Like, it was really, really cute. I think the cover probably didn't do it justice because it kind of makes it more look like a contemporary book rather than a romance book. And the reason why I say that is because contemporary books don't necessarily have a lot of heat in between relationships. They're kind of like, there's heat, but there's not really like explicit smutty heat. And Helena Hunting kind of has a lot more smut in her books, which, you know, makes them great. But this cover kind of doesn't really reflect it. Like, I don't know, it needed like a hot guy on the front. But yeah, so basically this one follows Caitlin, who is a lawyer, and Dax, who he was her rival in law school, and then his parents come to her to get a will written up for their youngest daughter, which basically means that Dax has power of attorney, and it's just kind of, it's an enemies to lovers, I guess would be the perfect way to describe it. So that was, I loved it. Kiss My Cupcake was her book that she released last year. That was her new release, and this year I'm not sure what she's going to release, but we'll find out. And so next have Chains of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I really loved this book. Wait, let me backstep, because I felt like the first probably 100 pages was very rehashed. And when I say rehashed, I mean like it was explaining Shadowhunters again for the 75th time. And so it was tedious, but in saying all of that, I loved this storyline because I really loved the Clockwork Princess, the Clockwork Prince, the Mortal Instruments series, which is set in the past, in the 1900s. And so that's why, or like the late 1800s. And so that's why I really, really loved this book, because it was set in that era again. So I kind of really love that era. I love anything written in that era. I think for me, it takes a lot of work for an author to research, you know, just clothing, language, food, buildings, locations, roads, things like that. How they traveled, because it's not just a matter of saying, oh yeah, in 1300 they walked down Thames Street and saw a library, because that just didn't happen. That there wasn't anything. So yeah, I love this series. I really do. But I just feel like if the next book is as monotonous explaining about Shadowhunters again, I think I'd probably be a bit jacked, to be honest with you. But then I also understand, this is a new series. It's also, some people haven't read the other 3 series, so they probably have never even realized that there's more to the Shadowhunter world. So I kind of understand why she has to go back and explain it all again, but I also feel like, it's been explained. But yeah, I really love this book. So this is a new series. It follows Cordelia Casteres. So this book is set like 20 years after the Mortal Instruments series ends. So you've got Lucy and James Herondale, you've got their kids, and it's like everyone's like a new set of kids, and it's just fantastic. I really love it. So if you're a Shadowhunters fan, recommend the new series. And her new book, Chains of Iron, comes out in March. So there's that. So I really discovered a lot of new authors last year, and I think it was a big year in that respect, because there was just so many authors that I was like, oh my god, I read one book and I was like, wow, I really like your style. So then I was like, I need to buy all of your books. But then of course that adds to my TBR pile by like, you know, 56 million books, because you've got to read every single one by the author. So yeah. So late to the pile was American Royals. I read this in December of last year. Catherine McGee, I did not like her other series, The Thousandth Floor. So I was a bit surprised. I really loved American Royals. I don't know if it was because it was the royal theme that I really loved, or I have a bit of an obsession with royal themes. I don't know, it was so good. It was really hip, young. It was a nice twist on a storyline. And it was a really nice kind of tangent, I guess, from what could be. So like this is kind of like what could be. So what if America did have a royal family and there was dukes and earls and, you know, all that. So it's just so cool because it was basically like putting the English monarchy in America, which I loved. I really, really did. So there was that one. Then coming in at number 4 was Serpent and Dove. Serpent and Dove was amazing. So this was enemies to lovers again. I think I have a thing for enemies to lovers more than what I do best friends to lovers. But Serpent and Dove was great. I did find it a bit hard to get into at first, just because it wasn't very good at kind of setting the scene and explaining what was happening. But then once it kind of got underway, it was really, really great. I think it was because of the chemistry between Lou and Reed was just so palpable. I loved it. Unfortunately, the second book, Blood and Honey, was a giant letdown. But I'm hopeful that the third book, Gods and Demons, which is coming out this year, will be a redeeming factor for this series. To be honest with you, the second book was so bad that I could have just not read it at all. And I pretty much did just skim through it because it was just so drawn out. It could have really been 200 pages. It didn't have to be 500. And it was quite obvious in the writing that it was long and drawn out. But yeah, Serpent and Dove was amazing. This is another YA fantasy. Basically, Lou is a Reed. Lou is a Reed. Lou is a witch hunter. Lou is a witch. Reed is a witch hunter. So by default, Reed should kill Lou, but they end up falling in love and they get married and blah blah. So yeah, that was the fourth book on my list. And coming in at number 5, we have The Selection, which it's another YA fantasy series, another royal themed book. Basically, this is like America in like the year 30,000 or something, like it's set really far into the future. And basically there is another royal family, and they need to, the son is of age, and so he's got to select a wife. And so in order to select a wife, he basically holds a competition with every single girl across the nation, and they line up and he selects people based on their photo, and then they go to the royal palace and he will then find a wife. So this is 3 books in the series. And then there's 2 spin-off books which were just atrocious. Do not recommend reading them. I think just stop at the 3rd book in this series, because you'll be sadly disappointed. But yeah, so this book's really, really nice. I loved the fact that the protagonist was extremely strong-willed. She really stuck to her morals, and she was just such a fantastic character to kind of get to know, and you really felt like you had a connection with her. And then coming in at number 6 6, I discovered Sarah J. Maas last year, and I can honestly say, just wow. She's pretty much the modern day J.K. Rowling, and when I say the modern day J.K. Rowling, I mean like her books have the potential to probably rival Harry Potter in storytelling ability, in creativeness, in just, yeah, they're just amazing. Her characters, her plot lines, her world building, the way she's able to interweave things, it's just phenomenal. It really, really is. So I first read Crescent City by her. This came out in March last year. And I remember I read the first page and then I was like, holy crap, I'm in love after reading the first page. But I have to admit that I read the first page and I was like confused because it didn't start right, and it almost started like it was in the middle of a book. So like it started off like it followed off from a first book. So like this felt like a second book in the series. And so I was like, oh no, did I like grab the wrong book? Like have I missed another book? Like I don't understand. So then I started like Googling her, and then I saw that she had like 2 other series, and I was like, oh, but this was the start of a new series. So I was like, okay, so this is definitely a new series, so I can just continue to read it. And then I continued to read it, and there's a lot of questions in this book. Like there's a lot of parts I was like, I don't get this. But obviously as the series progresses, those are kind of open-ended questions that she can then write about and answer. But this book had me in tears. This book, I could not believe she did what she did in this book. Usually authors kill characters off within the middle of the series, so like a second book or a third book if it's a like 4-part series. Usually, yeah, a semi-main character will get killed off just before kind of like the big battle. So I was so shocked when she killed off a main character within the first 200 pages. But I also understand she did that to kind of create a driving force behind Bryce, the main protagonist. So like, you know, she got lost after her best friend was killed, and then she kind of was searching for answers, and that drove her to become the protagonist she ended up being. So yeah, wow, still just wow. I really, really love this book. It is more adulty. This is probably more a fantasy level reading, just certain themes within this book. There's quite a lot of drug use, and I wouldn't say there's a lot of sex in this book because there wasn't really. It wasn't really smutty. It started to become smutty but then pulled away quickly, so it was kind of a bit of a book tease, this book was. But I think, yeah, I'm excited about the next book in the series, which will be coming out later on this year, I think October, November. Sarah has really teased at the fact that there is going to be quite a bit of smuttiness in that book, so I'm super excited for that. And the last book that makes my top 7 books for 2020 is A Court of Thorns and Roses. This series gave me life. I just cannot believe it. Yeah, this book is amazing. Like, her series is amazing. I'm lost for words. Basically, this book follows Feyre, who goes out hunting for her family. They're really poor, and so she needs to bring home food. And she goes out hunting and basically kills a wolf, and that just starts her journey into the Fey world, and down the rabbit hole she goes. I think this book is a cover for Beauty and the Beast. When I say it's a cover for Beauty and the Beast, I mean that that is the analogy that it is. So the storyline of Beauty and the Beast, of, you know, the Belle falling in love with the person behind the Beast face, is kind of the main antithesis of this book. But that's, you know, still, it's just amazing. It's really, really beautiful. It's a series, so there's 3 parts in Feyre's story, and the next book, which is A Court of Silver Flames, is coming out on the 18th of February, and that follows Feyre's sister. And so there'll be, I think, 3 more books in total in this series. Each of them, the next 3 books will follow a different POV. So then like Feyre's kind of POV, her storyline's kind of finished. And then now we'll kind of get to know her sisters and that kind of thing. So yeah, super exciting. I really loved A Court of Thorns and Roses, and just the series of A Court of Thorns and Roses. It was just amazing. I did also read her other series, which was Throne of Glass. Unfortunately, I really hated it. I stopped reading it after the second book, so that just shows you. But I don't know, I need to kind of get back into it. I think maybe after the 3rd book it picks up a little bit. I just felt within the first 2 books there was just too much flippy floppiness happening. I was confused by why the main character has 4 different names. I felt like that was just like a borderline personality disorder. Like, you're going from Selena Sardothian to the name that that Prince Dorian gives her to now Aileen. Like, it's just weird. Like, why are you going through that many different names? And it just kind of, it almost felt like because she wrote the first book and then didn't write anything else, or she may have written the first 2 books and then like stopped it, and then all of a sudden she got her publishing contract, and then she was like, oh, let's make this more, and so then that's why she kind of kept weaving down a road. But I felt like for me it was just too like confusing, because it was like we had one storyline and now we've got like a completely different segue. It just doesn't work. But in saying all of that, I am super excited for her 2 new releases this year, and I cannot wait to read those. And a lot of these series that I read last year that were in my top 7 are going to have the follow-on books released this year, which is super exciting. There's also a few other new releases coming out this year. Victoria Aveyard is releasing her new series. And there's a few others. I also cannot wait to read The Duke and I have been obsessively watching Bridgerton, and I have officially found a new series to stalk. So I have 8 new books waiting for me there. But yeah, other than that, I feel like this year I'm going to kind of see what happens, and hopefully we can make top 10 favorite books for this year. We'll see. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.